recommended some tech channels like Moore's Law is Dead and so on, and they were talking about the RX or the leaks regarding the RX 8800, the RX 8000 series. AMD is not entering the high-end market in that regard, and it's going back to mid-range. And for a moment I thought, well, 7900 XT performance or XTX performance for $400, maybe I should upgrade. And right after I thought that, I never thought it may. To what end or to what point? Let's look at the library that I have. We'll go through Epic, GOG, and Steam. Oh, and Xbox. So Epic, what are the resource intensive games that we have? Well, you have Plague Tale. Not my type of thing though. Control, I'm not interested in. The main character looks ugly and the gameplay is a little bit bland, and the environment is even more bland than the gameplay. I understand this was a big ray tracing title, but I don't play games to look at reflections. I would much rather play Monster Hunter and have the different biomes and the different regions with the sunlight and in like the Wildspire Waste or the miasma in Rotten Vale. I would much rather that than a bunch of grey corridors with super realistic reflections. Alright, Death Stranding, not interested in being a postman. Let's see, what other intensive? Hitman. Well, Hitman 3 isn't that intensive. Good game, but not intensive. I can't play first person games, so Metro is out. Remnant 2 was a mistake. I bought it, even though I got it off, I think about $30 on Epic. Still a waste of time because the reviews were misleading. The game is not good. It is, or not great. It is mediocre. I don't see the merit in spending time on mediocrity. Get something good instead. So on Epic, there's no real strong, like high intensive graphical game that I like, that I would be, having more fun with the 8800. GOG has no real graphical intensive game here. I've gone on to Steam. The Callisto Protocol is a bit boring, even though it's graphical intensive. Skyrim, you can mod it to be graphical intensive, but Nexus mods do the whole funny man business with Spider-Man, so I'm not using Nexus mods. And Skyrim is a broken, quite frankly, poorly made game, to the point where you need mods to make it fun. With mods it can be fun, but if you're not using mods, I don't see the point in playing Skyrim. What other? I mentioned Monster Hunter. It's actually a little bit intensive to run, because at max settings, 440p with a 6700 XT, I'm getting like, I think between 80 and 90 FPS. So it's not like I'm getting 100 plus, like with Hitman. Let's see, other intense again. Nothing else really on Steam. And then on Xbox we have Forza. This is probably the most intensive game that I have, Forza Horizon 5. On max settings I'm getting, it ranges between 60 and 90 FPS. Now I can overclock and undervolt, and I can fine tune the GPU to get it between 75-ish, right? So the minimum is now in 70s up to like high 90s, low 100s. But the problem is, every time I will tune the GPU and it will run fine in every other game, but on Forza it always crashes. So maybe this game just really hammers the GPU to the point where it's not, you don't have that much leeway from the base specs. I don't know. But the point is, even if I were to get the 8800 XT or whatever it's called, and I can double my frame rate in all these games, getting 60 to 90 in Forza isn't bad on max settings, like everything maxed out at 1440p. So would I really be enjoying the game that much more if I was getting 120 frames per second? I don't think so. Monster Hunter, I'm already getting 80 to 90. This monitor taps out at 144. So let's just say I max out the full 144. Will it be that much better compared to 80 and 90? Not to mention, I've been playing the game for over 1,000 hours now. So I've more than enjoy myself with the game. So I don't have any games in my library that would really be benefiting from that massive boost in power. And looking in the Horizon, let's see, we have the Thaumaturge. That looks interesting, but the game has optimization issues. It doesn't look like a game. Well, that's true for many games these days. The Thaumaturge specifically or especially doesn't look like it should, because it's a top-down isometric game. It doesn't look anywhere near as good as bringing my GPU down to 40 FPS, I think. Other thing is the first Descendant. That game is a little bit weird, because timing is very important. When the game first came out, or the beta rather, it was in the right time. Right, I was really fed up with all the wokeness. Here comes a Korean game with actual attractive looking characters, decent enough gameplay, but it did have some flaws. Namely, the repetitive mission design and the bland open world were the two main issues that I had with it. But if I recall correctly, I was getting pretty good frame rates on it. In the intensive scenes and locations when there's a lot of particles and enemies on board, I think I'm getting around 40 FPS. And in other instances 60 to 70ish, so that's fine. And it was in a beta, so hopefully they can make some optimizations. Worst case scenario, I can just turn down a couple settings and get my 60 FPS, right? So I don't really need the 8800 to play that. What other game am I looking forward to? Well, there's a possibility of Tekken. I haven't played Tekken in years, probably whenever Tekken 3 was released on the PS1, yeah, that was the last Tekken I played. But it's a fighting game, so I highly doubt that my GPU won't be able to run it at 60 FPS in 1440p. So upcoming games that I'm not interested in that many that require that type of performance. I don't have many existing games that require that level of performance. But what about other games like Alan Wake, for example, right? Alan Wake 2, not interested. The gameplay the gunplay in particular looks beyond mundane. Just nothing interesting whatsoever about it. It looks just like RE2 gunplay. And the dual protagonists on the opposite side of the law. I have already experienced that with better integration and interaction between the two protagonists in a game called Indigo Prophecy. I think it was called Fahrenheit in some regions, but Indigo Prophecy Fahrenheit, back on the PS2, we had that situation where one of the characters was a criminal on the run, and the other two characters were police chasing the criminal down. And the interaction here was the game also had a psych meter. So for the character on the run, the criminal, as he evades the police, his mental health improves. And for the police, as they close in on the criminal and the fugitive, their mental health improves. And one of your goals in the game is to max out or keep your mental health at a very high level, or else your character can get depressed and do all manner of stupidness. So that game had far more mechanical interaction, and the game was just overall more fun. When I compared the first hour of Indigo Prophecy to the first hour of Alan Wake 2, my god, I was bored to tears. But so long story short, I'm not just interested in Alan Wake 2. Forspoken, not interested. Immortal of Avium, first person game, so I can't play it. Even if it was third person, based on what I'm seeing, still not that interested. So buying the 8800 wouldn't really improve it can help with the videos, right? But I can do with the 6700 XT, right? It's not that big a deal rendering videos and so on. You see, if you don't take that additional time to look and wonder if this purchase will make your life better, you will get caught up in the hype and the marketing and promotion of these products, and you will buy things that you do not need. So I don't need that 8800 XT. So what I'm going to do, until this GPU is no longer able to play the game that I am interested in, I'm going to just stop watching tech channels and so on, because not everyone is able to take in the latest and greatest information and rumors and then constantly comparing it to the old stuff that we have and say, well, good for them, and continue on with life. Some of us are, or most of us I would say, are more vulnerable to saying, well, I don't want to miss out on this massive performance, so I will go and buy it. I did a similar thing when it came to the smartphone. A couple years ago I bought the S9 Plus, going through reviews and so on. Then you know how YouTube stay. Once you start to watch something, they will recommend more and more. And I don't remember right now. Let us say, for example, the S9 Plus had the Snapdragon 845. Next year, the Snapdragon 855 came out. There isn't a massive difference in performance between the 845 and 855 now. But all the tech reviewers, if a smartphone in the following year didn't have the new one, they will mark it down as a negative. And so, unfortunately, it's only 845. And after a while, I thought, hold on, but the 845 isn't bad. Like, it was released just last year. It's not outdated. So that's when I stopped watching the tech channels for smartphone updates and so on, unless I am in the market for a smartphone. I'm going to do the same thing for hardware, CPUs and GPUs. Unless I'm in the market for one, I'm just going to avoid it. I'm not saying that everyone should do it, right? Just that if you do still watch these channels, don't get caught up in, okay, I can double my frame rate. If you double your frame rate from 70 to 140 and you're on a 60 hertz monitor, for example, that makes very little sense. If you double the frame rate and you don't have any games that require that power, again, very little sense. So I'm going to hold on with this. Just always bear in mind and have realistic expectations, and don't allow other people to convince you to get something that you really don't need just because they need your interest to stay in business.